Now that we've got the data set ready to go, we can start to make sense of this home screen. The home screen is the first thing that you see when you fire up Inventor. It's like a centralized control panel for accessing files that you've recently opened, or for accessing new files and managing projects and shortcuts and various other details for files. It's just a nice little completely optional control panel that you can use to do some common file management tasks. So we're going to look at that in a little bit more detail in this clip. So to get things going, we're going to need to open up some files so we've got some information in here. However, you might have already opened up some files with the Inventor that you're using right now, so you might be looking at something a little bit different. So if you want to try and get your window back to how mine looks, you can try click and reset up at the top. Click and reset will reset the panels back to how they should be out factory settings. And then you can also right click in the gray area down here in recent documents and then select clear unpinned documents, clear all unpinned files, and that should remove all previously recently opened documents from this list. For the filters and whatnot, you can tick, make sure all these boxes here are ticked, make sure your sort by and your date modified are all the same as mine, just so we're both looking at the exact same thing, and then make sure large tiles is selected, and that should be pretty much it. Okay, the next thing we're going to need to do is load in some files, and to load in some files we need to activate the project file, which we're going to use throughout the duration of the course. Now I'm going to cover project files in more detail in module 2, but we still need to load in the project file for the course. So click getting started up at the top left and then click projects. Then you want to click browse, go to your C drive, go to Pluralsight, and then go into PS File Management and then double click PS File Management IPJ. So what that does is it loads in the project file for the training course, and it instructs Inventor that whenever we click open, always go to this workspace here, because that's where our files are stored when we're working on this project. But more about that in module 2. Click done, and that should load in the PS File Management project and tick it up here at the top right. So the home screen's broken into 3 main panels. The most active and the most useful panel is this recent documents panel down here at the bottom. That's why it takes up the most space. You're going to get more use out of that than the other ones. So whenever you open up a file, a drawing, whenever you work on anything, it'll add that file to this panel down here. And then whenever you open up Inventor, it'll give you an access shortcut to all the files you've recently opened, and it just saves you having to browse, open, double click through a load of folders to get to files you've recently opened. It'll just list them all down here in the recently opened documents list. Up at the top left, this here is the new documents panel. So we're not going to concentrate too much on this one, but it's just a quick shortcut to start a new part, start a new assembly or a new drawing. And you've also got an advanced tab here which sort of breaks things down into a more advanced view of starting a new file. Select basic again to get that back to normal. And then up at the top right here, we've got the projects panel, and this one's broken into 3 ribbon tabs along the top. You've got projects, you've got shortcuts, and we've got file details. But again, we'll cover that in a little bit more detail in just a short second. So we need to populate the recent documents list with some information, just so you can get the most out of this area, because that's what I think most people would probably find most useful about the home screen. So click open at the top left, and then go into parts, go into flower, and then hold down the control key on your keyboard and then select flower IPT and flower IDW. Click open, and that's going to open up both the model and the drawing for the flower. So that's 2 files we've just opened, the drawing and the part. So if you click My Home over here on the left hand side, you should now see Flower IPT and Flower IDW, because they are recent documents that we've been working on. Now that they're in this list, you can now see how different actions within the recent documents area can affect how it presents that information to you. So at the moment we're looking at large tiles, but you can change that to smaller tiles with a bit more information, file path, file size. You've got some shortcuts up here for, you can maybe remove a certain tile from the list that you might not want to see. You can open the file straight from the tile. And you can change this to be the larger tiles, small tiles, or show them all as a flat list. And we can also apply some filters down the left hand side. Now these filters behave like pretty much every filter you'll have used within the Windows operating system. So for example, you can reorder the files in the list based on when the last time you opened or saved, or alphabetical, or file size. And then also you've got the date modified, so show me all files modified in the last day, in the last week, for example. So you've got some good options there for filtering out files to only show files that you find relevant. Another thing you can do are file types. So if you're going to be working on drawings at the moment, you can get rid of everything in this list other than drawings, and it's just going to show you the recent drawings that you've worked on. Same goes for parts and everything else. So yeah, those ticky box filters, they're quite useful. Up at the top right though, this one is equally as useful. This is a text search. So once you've worked on hundreds of files, you might start to find it difficult even with the filters to find the file that you want to find. So if you know part of the part number or part of the file name, you can use the search recent documents to find the file that you're looking for. So if we type in flower.ipt, there you go, it's only going to show flower.ipt, same for flower.idw, and then you can just remove the text out of there to get rid of the search filter. So that's the recent documents. If you do find that is the only area within the home screen that you use, you can use this button up here to maximize the recent documents to fill the entire real estate on screen, and that gives you the most out of that window. Gives you more real estate to list more documents using the recent documents window. Another thing you can do, reset that back to standard, and then you can use flip to just flip it around. And then finally, if you want just a little bit more flexibility for managing this home screen, you can use these bars here just for dragging those up and then moving it around. And you can see that the window is quite flexible. Inventor will rearrange the elements and resize them based on how you drag the slide bars. And then if you find not too keen on how I've done that, you can select reset and it'll just put it back to normal pretty safely. We're going to concentrate on projects in module 2, but something else which is quite useful is if you select shortcuts, this will create, or it allows you to create a set of shortcut folders for access within Inventor. So for example, if you do have a load of folders either on your computer, on a USB disk, or on a server that you find yourself going to on a regular basis, you can add those shortcuts here within the shortcuts area. So what you do is you click add path, and then you can select browse to the folder you want to create a shortcut to, and then click OK, and then you can give that shortcut a name. So you can say this is going to be my my concept files, for example. So this could be an area on the server where you store a load of drawings for concept models or concept drawings. Click add, and then that creates my concept files shortcut folder. If you click that shortcut, it's now going to open up an open window within Inventor and take you straight to that folder. Alternatively, you can click this little tick box here, and then that will open up the window to Windows Explorer instead of doing it within Inventor's own open command. So that opens up a separate Windows Explorer window. Another useful element of the home screen is the file details. Select any file in the recent documents list, and then it'll show you file information about that file, an extended, expanded set of file information about the file, which again is totally optional. You might find that you don't need to access that information, but personally I find that options are great. The more information, the better. And just to wrap things up for the home screen, sometimes it can be quite easy to accidentally remove the home screen and close it down. By selecting the little crosses down here on these tabs, it's quite easy to do the same thing on the home screen and click the cross up here at the top right, and that will remove the home screen and it completely gets rid of it. And you're thinking to yourself, well, I actually quite like that, I want it back. Well, what you can do to get the home screen back, if you do ever lose it, is just on the Getting Started tab here, click the home button, and that'll bring the home screen back if you ever do lose it. So that's going to do it for the home screen. Stick around, and for the next clip we're going to be looking at what all the different file types in Inventor are all about.